All right. We are live and welcome to a very special edition of Elevate Your Grind. It is a rise and grind. We're up in the morning. We're excited. We've got our coffee. I wish I can say that I was able to sleep in and this is the morning for me, but I've been up since about 5:45 when my little girl woke me up. Got a lot accomplished today, but we've got an awesome guest for you today. Before we get into it, I want to talk about one of our sponsors. Have you guys met DeRay yet? How could you not? Her and her team of dynamos are everywhere. They lead the way in strategic and creative PR and marketing initiatives that showcase the allure of the cannabis industry, including hemp, CBD, and THC. They will guide your brand in the right direction while strategically navigating the ever-changing and growing industry. DeRay and her dynamos will spotlight your product line, tell your story to bring attention and awareness to your brand in key identified markets. DeRay's clients don't just sit back and wait for clients to have news, they make news. Visit their website at cannabismarketingpr.com. That's cannabismarketingpr.com. Shout out to my friend Jenna Reed. She works there. If you talk to her, tell her I said hi. All right, folks, my guest today is a very special one. I've decked out the studio with their logo, and the reason that he's special is because outside of Rob and Charles, who we did our first test episode with, he was our first legitimate interview. He's one of our most watched episodes. He's definitely someone to keep your eye on in the Florida cannabis market. Please welcome one of my favorite guests, Brady Cobb. Brady, thanks for
Good
joining
morning,
me, man.
Todd. Hey, man, it's great to
How's it
see you
going?
again. I can't believe you've done 50 episodes, man. Congratulations to you and the C Lab team. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't believe we've done 50 episodes either, because I can tell you originally when we were doing these in person, I came to your office. My goal was to get to 50 by the end of the year. And then pandemic came and I had nothing else to do. So,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
so hey, man. So funny story. I want to start there actually. So I watched a little bit of our first interview, and besides the fact that you can hear my nerves and I'm a little bit less professional, you told a story about when you and Mike sat down to do OnePlant, and you're talking about where you're going to do all your dispensaries and everything else. And Mike said, hey, man, for the longest time, the way that you got cannabis was you called your guy and he brought it to you. You met him somewhere. Why would we change everything else? And Mike was just delivery, delivery, delivery. I remember the day that they announced this as a pandemic and businesses started shutting down, I had texted Rhonda. I'm sure there's no dealing with Mike in the office right now because he's probably just walking around going, see, told you, delivery first, delivery first.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this has worked out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I wish I could give Mike full credit. I don't think he saw a pandemic coming, but I can tell you that having a scaled up delivery service, but more importantly, having the ability to scale it up and to work out the bugs, and we're not done working out bugs, but to work out the bugs, to work out the tweaks, to dial it in from July of 19 through February when we started feeling the COVID, pandemic's true wrath. It was a really good thing to have that in place because we were able to get medicine out and in a very safe way. We were able to take the same delivery platform that we had and roll it into the state's first approved curbside program. It was tremendous, and I give Mike all the credit in the world for pushing us to do that. I mean, it was a game changer for us to be able to have it, but I can't for a second ignore the work the team did to make it happen for that July until February. And we're still tweaking it. I think you saw some of our competitors went out and tried to launch delivery during COVID and ran into that buzzsaw of how hard it is to scale up a delivery of a Schedule 1 substance in the state of Florida with how big Florida is and how to integrate that into your retail experience. It's not an easy task, and I've got an absolutely amazing team that helped us make that happen. And it's still an ongoing thing as we roll out each new store, but yeah, delivery was a huge thing for us. It remains a huge component of our business right now. I don't know if you know this, but for about the last 2 weeks, our stores have been closed to the in-store experience. So
Yeah.
we've closed down the stores again for the protection of the team and our patients, and we're only doing home delivery or curbside pickup, and our numbers are still holding right where they should be.
Yeah, and so I mean, to just speak from experience, I mean, first of all, I wish I knew his name so I can shout him out here. But the dude who comes to my house, I get the same delivery driver every time.
Is it
I don't
Bernie?
know if that's
Bernie and
what's that?
Ozzy? Bernie and Ozzy?
Probably.
Yeah, they're the
Yeah, one
best.
of them has dreads.
That's Ozzy. He's the man.
Dude, he comes up. gloves, mask, the whole nine, super safe experience and everything else. But he remembers me, talks to me about things. He'd even mention the podcast. I look forward to him coming, especially. Listen, I know nobody on this show knows how much that I've actually been locked up with, I have a little girl and we got to be careful about that. I look forward to that human interaction with him. It makes the experience great. So I commend you guys for that for sure. I have to ask you a question just because we had Socrates from Jane on about 2 weeks ago. I know that you guys leverage Jane for part of your delivery. How important is a platform like them for you guys to build your delivery around? I know there's a lot of stuff unique to OnePlant, but do they kind of give you the building blocks? I know, your website runs off of them from an ordering standpoint. Is that a solid partnership for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're big fans of Jane. They were huge, and their development team was absolutely tremendous to work with because we were one of the first companies to actually launch delivery with them. So when we first met with them and started going through the process, they're saying, okay, so how many stores are you opening? We go, no, we have one store open right now. We're a big delivery company, and they go, okay. So their development team and their back office team was absolutely amazing to work with. As we kind of rolled out this different look at the Florida cannabis space, instead of just the traditional brick and mortar, we said we're also each store is a delivery hub. And they go, okay. So they actually helped us build, and we created some middleware between Jane and the ecom platform and our middleware system on the back end that organizes and sets up and routes all our deliveries. We actually created some middleware that spoke between the two of them so that we could make it efficient, which was a very good, we did that implementation before COVID too, which allowed us to be able to keep up with the demand because we were seeing 40% week over week increases once COVID really cranked up. And again, besides Rise, I think we were the only other company that closed our stores during the real heat of the pandemic in the spring. We were closed from basically March to May. And you
Yeah.
still saw we had week over week gains every single week. And that was all based off curbside, which we call curbside just a quick delivery. It's a short
Yeah.
delivery. But between curbside and home delivery and having that partnership with Jane, they were definitely amazing to work with.
Yeah, the experience has been incredible. I've done curbside at OnePlant. I've done the delivery. I have personal experience from it. For me, it's very nice to hit the OnePlant dispensary, then U-turn on Federal, hit Bud's Chicken and Seafood, and come home.
There
Love
you
doing
go.
that.
There
I
you
used to
go.
live over there, so I wish I still did now that OnePlant's there. But the pandemic has not slowed you guys down. As a business, you were deemed essential. That's what this shirt is. You guys were nice enough to send me all this swag. Thank you, Rhonda, for getting this out to me. The back of this shirt says 420 was essential and we were deemed essential for it. I mean, you guys have been providing medicine to the state, but you've also been opening retail locations, which, are your delivery hubs in the middle of a pandemic. So you've had to have grand openings without the ability to have grand openings. It's just very lackluster. Hey, this city, your store is open, but we've got curbside and delivery. We can't welcome you inside yet. I think the only store that you were able to actually have a physical grand opening for was Jack's Beach, right?
Correct. Yeah. And that was just before the pandemic hit. One of the things we've done differently, and it makes it interesting on how you're going to get the word out, but what we've done differently, myself being a born and raised Floridian, Mike Bondurant, who you mentioned, our president and CSO, being a born and raised Floridian, and a lot of our team being true Floridians, is we've tapped into the networks within each city, and we go out before we open a store and we are embedding ourselves and becoming a partner in that community. In Jacksonville, for example, we're sponsoring the Void Surf Contest. I'm actually going to surf in it
Very
myself
cool.
in August. We go and sponsor home and garden shows. We go sponsors, kind of take the pulse of each community, figure out who the community leaders are, can figure out the community organizations that are really important in that area, and embed ourselves in the community so that while we can't have a huge grand opening party where we're handing out a bunch of swag and doing stuff, we start our grassroots, almost an ambassador program, months before we go open a store, which we've been deeply working on that because we're going to roll out 7 more stores before the end of the year. So, you're going to see Ocala coming in a couple of weeks. You'll see Avon Park right behind it. And then you'll see Orlando all kind of before the end of September, knock on wood. You can hear me knocking.
Yeah.
But, we're out in those communities and our teams are in those communities kind of infiltrating our way in. learning about the community, learning about the patients, hearing their stories, and then ultimately being ready to hopefully serve them and provide them with our cannabis.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you guys have taken such a different approach than a lot of the MMTCs, at least to my knowledge, on how you're approaching this market, with the delivery. And then, something that really resonated with me and some people that actually enjoyed the episode of your podcast was a statement that you made about focusing on your grow, where you need to make your investment in your kitchen. If you're gonna make a restaurant, you need to make the investment in your kitchen first before you're gonna invest in the area where people eat. Because if you don't have a good product to put out there, they're not gonna come eat anyway. So I know that you guys have busted your ass. I've talked to you, Rhonda, Mike, Andrew, the whole team there, and you guys have your Indiantown facility up and running, which is incredible. Talk to us about that, how that feels, and how that facility is going to help support the stores that you're bringing online this year, because it's so nice to hear that we had a store, I think you have 4 or 5 open right now, and
4 right
before you
now.
get to that 12, you're like, we need to get this grow going because we need to make sure there's stuff on the shelves. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, Indiantown in my professional career, whether it be as a lawyer, which I'm in recovery now, or as a CEO of Soul, getting Indiantown done was probably the single hardest thing I've ever done in my life, professionally. To build a cannabis cultivation facility of that caliber, of that quality, to have the team that I had around me and growers that got the chance to build their dream grow, we didn't take it lightly. I mean, we could have spent a lot less money. We could have had it open a lot quicker if we would have built a more simple facility, but that wasn't what I promised the growers. That wasn't in line with what our mission was, which was to build the best so that we had the best. So we took our time and we did it right. Now, having the entire cannabis sector go off a cliff in the middle of the construction process was not fun. It did not make for an easy build, but we persevered. And when I got to move plants in there in April, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. And when we got to actually go harvest them 60 days later, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. So it's not lost on any of us as a team as to what we've accomplished, but we're just getting started. I mean, this facility, we just had our first harvest. I know some of the Florida patients yesterday got to go try the first flower to come out of Indiantown that we've sold, which is the runts, which I personally tried last night that blew my head off. You're going to see now with this Indiantown facility that we're no longer going to be with sporadic flower inventory. You're not going to see a drop of MAC and then not see it again for a while. You're not going to see a drop of ChemD and not see it for a while. Patients are going to be able to get used to having 5 to 7, maybe even upwards of 9 choices of flower in our stores consistently from about middle of August until we decide we're no longer going to be in Florida. And that's something I'm super proud of. And it's all going to be high quality genetics. Sourdough, Dirty Lemons, I-75, Fish Whistle, Star Dog, Chem Sis, Chem 4, Runts. And the other cool thing that we've done is we've set up our production calendar is I've also given the growers in the greenhouse a nice chunk of the greenhouse for R&D, so that they can continue to go out and utilize their networks and obtain some of the best cuts, obtain some of the best genetics. We'll run them through, see how they go, provide a limited amount out to the market to test it out. And if it tests well and it does well and it grows good in our environment, then you'll start to see we'll consistently be refreshing and introducing new exotics into our portfolio, so to speak. So for us, we're super stoked to have that facility open, man. I can't tell you how much, every time I drive down that Martin Highway and get to pull in there, and I'm there a couple days a week, it just brings a huge smile to my face. And to see the growers get to finally do what they get to do and to feel that environment. I mean, yesterday I had it was a privilege to host the OMMU director and 2 of his staff for a tour of Indiantown. They were in South Florida doing some stuff down here and wanted to stop by and reached out through our council, and we got to tour him through there and to see their faces when they were in there as to what we had built. I mean, the AC system and the dehumidification systems we have in there, each room is its own microclimate. So we can basically harness people call it a greenhouse. It's not a greenhouse, it's a hybrid. And when I say hybrid, what I mean is I get to harness the best light that man has ever known, the sun. And I also get to keep it. The knock on a greenhouse is when the curtains are open and it's full sunlight. In Florida, it gets too hot in there. So you're going to damage the flower. You're going to stress the plants. You're going to have lower yields. You're going to have all sorts of environmental related issues with mold and powdery mildew from the heating and the cooling. That's the knock on greenhouses. This isn't a greenhouse. We get to harness the sun, but with the Daikin chiller system and the desiccant-based dehumidification systems we have in there and all the automation we have, I can have it be 95 degrees outside with 80% relative humidity. And in our rooms, it's 75 degrees and 50% humidity. You need a sweatshirt when you're walking through there in the summer. So it is an indoor grow where I get to harness the sun, but we also have cloudy days here in Florida. So when the light density, we have 10 sensors in each room that track CO2, the water density in the plants to make sure we're not overwatering or underwatering. We track light density, we track humidity, we track temperature, and all of this is fed into an algorithm-based system where we are continually making it run more efficiently. But if the light density sensor senses that there's clouds and they're not getting enough micromoles of light, it will automatically kick on the indoor lights, close the white shades. The system, we're just starting to really dial it in. So the flower quality is just going to get better and better. But you can look for next week, you're going to see the first batch of Stardog and Mac 1 hit. And then from then on, you're going to see us dropping these strains, but with actual, we're going to go from 300 pounds a month to close to 1,400 pounds a month. And we're taking a room down every 7 days.
Dude, that is so badass, and I can't wait for Mac 1 to hit the shelves again. You know, it's one of my personal favorites.
You should see the toppers, man. They're like quarter-ounce toppers. That's how I mean, it broke our hearts to have to trim them down so that we could fit them into the containers. That's how big the toppers were.
I can't wait to go see it in person, man.
No, we'd love to host you. We'd love to host you.
I was coming regardless. I'd break in if I had to. So, you know, I often joke that my daughter Mackenzie is named after the strain, but she was born well before I discovered it. But my wife's going to kill me for that one.
Well, my wife will kill me, but my son, I'll tell you, I've taken my children to the greenhouse to show them where dad does stuff and wanted to walk them through, and had my grow team really kind of give them a full kind of life science of the plant photosynthesis tour. And they loved it. And my son's favorite, because the Mac plant, when it's doing its thing and a couple of weeks out from being harvested, it's absolutely gorgeous. And that was my son's favorite one to look at. So don't feel bad.
That's really cool. I try not to be too active in comments and stuff on social media, but I think it was P-Bud posted a new strain that you guys worked on. I just commented, more Mac crosses, please. He's like, we're trying. It's hard plant because it's a bitch of a plant to breed with. But I'm like, okay. I'll respect your opinion. You have a lot more experience than me. And on that note, you know, you guys have the new grow, the garden, as you call it. It's, you know, I really like what you guys are doing with the approach. Your latest marketing thing that you've done on social media, where you're featuring your growers and you have a profile on each one of them, and it's a nice picture with them. And I really like how respectfully and how well you're doing it, because, you know, I'm a big fan of exposing the general public to our industry in the proper manner, right? And the reason I brought up Jane is because I told Socrates, you know, the easiest way for me to describe this, the experience of being a medical patient to people, is to pull up Jane and show them what everybody has. Go to the OnePlant site, show the different products you have. I love seeing things like what you're doing with the growers on social media, because it's kind of taking the historic culture, putting context around it, and really showing the positive side of everything. And I think it's going to inspire people, you know, to look at agriculture, to look at cannabis from a holistic view, not just growing medical marijuana and adult use marijuana, but hemp and CBD and industrial hemp. And I really hope that people advocating for this plant in the whole manner, in a way that you guys are doing with your grower showcase, brings people to this industry and makes people want to get involved. I mean, I don't know about you. You've experienced this, right? You've woken up every day, you've put on a suit, you've gone into an office, you did the grind, and now you're still grinding, but you get to jump in your car, go walk the farm, talk to some guys, and actually like be somewhat outside for your job. That sounds really appealing for me, especially if the upside is the same as the suit and tie job. So, you know,
it's awesome.
How important was it for you to showcase your growers the way that you guys are?
They're the fabric of who we are. I mean, if I get to go on and go on TV or do news media articles, but make no mistake about it, we would not be where we are. We would not be the company that we are. We would not probably be even a semblance of what OnePlant is right now without our growers. So as I surveyed and kind of had some time to look around the industry before Mike and I decided to jump in and do this in my position at Sol, where I got to see a lot of things, the one thing I saw was a lot of soulless cultivation facilities. I saw a lot of Wall Street suits or people that had no connection or relationship with the plant, uh, running companies. You see C-suites filled out with consumer packaged goods, C-suite members, jumping over to cannabis because it's the new hot thing. And there wasn't a lot of people. There's probably a handful of companies out there that actually were for growers, by growers that focused on cannabis. So as we looked at it, we go, that's ass backwards. You can't be a cannabis company if you don't focus on the quality of your cannabis. And I'm not throwing shade by saying this, but maybe I am. I'll be viewed as throwing shade. But if you look around the Florida market, can you name the name of a grower of any other company in the state of Florida? That's a shame, because those guys and girls that work in the cultivation departments are what make those companies run. You cannot do anything you can't sell anything unless there's something to sell. So for us, I had a personal relationship with our master grower, Chris Keller. This t-shirt actually was a little bit of a spoof. It's Chris Keller and Mike Peabody. We figured if those guys, we made a little shirt for them, and we
That's
figured
awesome.
if they were actually on the presidential ticket, maybe everyone would be a lot happier because they'd have really good weed across America. So
yeah,
but it's just, for me, it's the foundation of who we are, and to have these guys trust me and move here to do this to Florida from other places, move their families across the country. A lot of them leave other jobs to come do this, while they may have been black market growers, to go come and actually do it in the sunshine and jump on and do this. And then suffer through what we suffered through in Ruskin and what they suffered through in Ruskin before we could upgrade it and before we could get Indiantown open. They deserved every minute, and you're going to see a consistent, sustained focus on our growers and our farms. I'm not interested in, and I think it's one of the interesting developments in the industry. It's something that the department director mentioned yesterday, is that they get a lot of requests for a ton of different variances for all kinds of new products. People want to come out with a powder or a bomb or a 3-to-1 pen or a 4-to-1 distillate product. If you think about it, Todd, we're in the cannabis business. We're not in the pen business. We're not in the bomb business. This is cannabis. And from a cost of goods sold standpoint, the highest return you can get on a product, the highest margin you're going to get is on flower, because you have to do the least to it. You don't have to involve the lab. You don't have to make it in a distillate. You don't have to, if you're making rosin, you don't have to go through that entire process of fresh frozen, washing it, ice hash, the whole deal. It's flower. But if your flower is not of a good enough quality because you didn't invest in your growers and you didn't invest in your facilities, then you have to start sending it to the lab and making all these various different products. That's not who we are. You're going to see from us, you're going to see flower, you're going to see pre-rolls, you're going to see concentrates, solventless concentrates, where we're doing we just dropped some live rosin today, where you're going to see a sustained push of live rosin, and then you're going to see our distillate. That's our 4 SKUs. That's it. We're a cannabis company. We're not looking to make a bunch of different products. And what the director said yesterday, which I thought was interesting, is when they hear from patients, what patients want the most? Flower. So for us, I can't say that we're going to grow good flower if I didn't have the growers bought in and have the team that was willing to do it. And if we didn't invest in the facility. And we're very proud of those guys. They're an integral part of our business. They are the fabric of who we are. We wouldn't be where we are without them. And we're very lucky to have this team and this crew that we have. And I can't wait for you to get to come up to Indiantown and meet them and kind of hang with the crew. There's a reason I love driving up there. You mentioned it. To me, to be able to, they always say there's not a lot of, we've worked for a lot of companies. We've never seen the CEO in the garden as much as you are. Usually they're just walking around for tours. I go work. I put gloves on, put my headphones in, pull my buff up, and I go work with them in the garden, moving plants in or out or harvesting, not because I'm trying to look cool for an Instagram photo. It's because I genuinely love being in the garden with those plants. But more importantly, I love working with the guys. It's something that keeps my feet on the ground, because I got to fight a lot of different battles as a public company in the capital markets and with investors. Those days I get to go to the farm are days that I absolutely cherish.
I hope as you grow and as OnePlant expands and with the future, that you always get to be able to do that. You know, people, as companies grow, the CEO gets pulled out of a lot of day-to-day stuff, and it's unfortunate. So I hope, you know, as long as you guys are around, that you get to do that. And I'm really excited. I can tell that it's genuine because, you know, I follow ChemDog and P-Bud on social media, and you're right. You know, listen, nothing against the other companies. I don't know the names of their growers. I follow two of yours on social media, and I enjoy it. No offense, I enjoy their social media better than the OnePlant social media because I know who it's
P-Bud's
coming
great.
from, right?
Yeah, P-Bud's
They, you
great.
know, they're A, they seem extremely happy to be down here, and B, I know that they're super passionate about it. Like, look, no, your One Plant's Instagram is to promote One Plant. These guys don't need to have their own Instagrams. They don't need to promote the things they're doing. They have a job with you. There's, you know, they're not going to get a deal outside of that. So when I look at it, it's so pure that I love following it and I love seeing it, and I love the environment that you guys have set up there. I kind of got a little insight into it. And I'm trying, you know, when you and I first met, you had told me about Cody at Northern Emeralds, right? And I just recently got to sit down and watch the Netflix documentary, The Business of
Yeah.
Drugs, which he's in. I mean, you know, I had tried Northern Emeralds. I had heard the stories that you have told, but, you know, actually seeing Cody in that documentary and understanding, you know, how he looks at the plant and treats it, I can only imagine what that first meeting between you two were, especially given the similar backgrounds. You know, how much more influence does Northern Emeralds and Cody still have with you guys in One Plant? Is there a lot of collaboration back and forth, or is it kind of just they got you started there and you let your guys take it from here?
You know, it was Cody and I, to have similar backgrounds. Both of our fathers were smugglers. Both of our fathers kind of took a path well before that was legal, and he and I are both pursuing it kind of our way. And yeah, the first meeting with those guys, I still remember getting off the plane in Humboldt and going to get to their farm. It was, you know, mystical, man. It was just what they have out there is tremendous. Their team is a family, you know, and they're still kind of our West Coast family, but they definitely helped us in the beginning in identifying some things we could do in Ruskin, my team went out and spent some time with them. They came here and spent some time with us. They were influential in helping us kind of design and build our greenhouse in Indiantown, and how we were going to set some things up from a flow standpoint. So like little things, when you get to come see it, you'll see, you go in most grows, you see air blowing from the ceiling down to the plants. Well, let's think about it. If the rooms are heating up, heat rises. So why are you blowing cold air down to meet hot air? You're just going to create moisture, which moisture is nobody's friends in a cultivation facility. You walk in our facility, you're going to see our cooling comes from the ground up. So it's little tweaks like that, you know, in the design process. And then I got to give my guys credit. You know, Chris Keller has stepped up tremendously. Brian Roberts has stepped up tremendously. We brought in Derek from California. He stepped up tremendously. Elliot, all the boys up there have stepped up tremendously. And now now they are on their own 2 feet firmly. And as our product quality kind of shows from a consistent basis, we're putting out really, really good flower. And the good news for Florida is more is coming, a lot more than they've ever seen from us. And it's on a sustained, consistent basis. But one of the things I'm most proud of is the cure process and how we've dialed in the cure and the trim. We're still hand trimming everything, whether it's tier 1, and you'll see this weekend, I believe it's going to go up. We got a new pricing tier. We got a new 3-tier pricing system. Doesn't matter if it's tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. It's all being hand trimmed. And that's, I give Cody credit for. I'll give credit where credit is due. You can't take a plant that you put that much care into. We take a lot of pride in our mission statement where it says our cannabis is grown, not made. You can't do that and run it through a twister. You can't say that and run it through a twister. And it's more labor. You know, the investment side of the world may kick me in the shins because they say I have too much labor. But I say, you know, that's just, I can't call myself a flower company if I'm running it through a twister and destroying the buds. So, you know, other companies in the state want to do that. That's good for them. That's not who we are. So for us, it's Northern Emeralds. Those guys will always be family. The deal just unfortunately didn't make sense as we were, you know, the market fell off a cliff. They needed to kind of get their business and operations going and together in California. We had to do the same thing here and kind of dig in and get through this Indiantown opening, which was not easy. And, you know, we'll sit down, we still stay in touch, and we'll sit down towards the end of this year and reevaluate a possible deal. But I will always have a tremendous amount of respect for Cody and Tyler and their team. They're some of the best guys you could ever meet and deal with. And Cody is very much a brother to me, and I'm very proud to be his friend and to see what they're doing out in California, because California is no different than Florida. It's a sea of very average cannabis, aside from a few companies, and for them to be able to do what they're doing. I don't know if you saw their Instagram page, but a couple of weeks ago, probably about a month ago, they harvested and took to market one of their strains that was north of 40% THC.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was 42% total cannabinoids, 40-something% THC. Like it was ridiculous. I called them and I'm like, come on, man, that freaking COA can't be right. And they're like, yeah, no, here it is. So I was like, oh my God. The true one hitter quitter.
Oh, I mean, it's incredible. And, you know, I love bringing the attention to this. When you look at the growing of this plant from an agriculture, it's a science, right? These people look at it, not these people, the growers, they look at it as a science, right? And you have a conversation with them. And even the things that you're mentioning today, some of it I'm like, all right, cool. And some of it I'm like, oh my God, that's so over my head, but I'm just going to let them talk because it's interesting. And somebody who's listening might understand it better than me. You know, funny story, man. And I hate this stuff, but when we posted that you were going to be on the show today, someone who had nothing better to do with their life commented that, good luck, Brady, when interstate commerce opens up, Florida's going to go out of business because you can't grow good cannabis in Florida. And it's all about the terrier, which I had to Google what it was. And that's the environment to grow wine in California. Listen, social media is full of Monday morning quarterbacks, and I usually don't want to pull attention to this, but it's an interesting statement. You don't have a true greenhouse. You can't grow cannabis in greenhouses. You know, how do we answer that question? Because cannabis has been grown here forever, and it hasn't been grown in sophisticated places like the one that you have. It's been grown on the side of golf courses and in the woods and on public lands and a whole lot of not friendly environmental places. So listen, I have the sticker on the desk right here. I actually have it like on places too, but made in Florida, right?
Yep.
I'm so proud of that, right? So talk to me. I'm just going to make the assumption. How wrong is this person?
You know, they're very, very, very wrong. And look, we take a ton, we get a ton of heat, we get a ton of comments because we're disruptive, because we're doing things differently. And because we're flower focused, some people, you know, that are entrenched, I mean, if you look at Reddit, which, you know, I've made it a purpose not to look at Reddit anymore because we're doing what we're doing. I used to, I haven't looked at it in months, but people on the team or, friends will say, hey, did you see this? Look, here's one thing I'll say, and this goes to kind of, you mentioned Dorit. Dorit does a lot of our PR in Florida. And the one thing that is commonly said in PR is if they're not talking about you, you got a big problem. So from our perspective, let them talk. We're doing it our way. That Tom Petty song, I Won't Back Down, we're doing it our way. But that person that commented could not be more wrong. And I will say this because if they think interstate commerce is coming within the next 5 years, they're dreaming. I personally have lobbied DC for the last 5 years. If tomorrow President Trump hit his head and said, I'm going to legalize cannabis, it's at least a 3-year process. And it's still going to have to respect the state by state. Each state's going to be able to make its own decision as to whether it wants it. So Florida and Georgia may say yes, even if it's legal federally, just like the alcohol laws are. Some places are dry counties, some places are dry cities. So this notion that, oh my God, it's just going to be interstate commerce. California, there's certain areas of California where you can grow outdoors very well, and that's up in Humboldt County for a reason. It's called the Emerald Triangle for a reason. But the production up there is not enough to supply the country, and nor do you want to throw it in a truck and ship it across the state, to ship it across 50 states, 3,000 miles, and think that's a way to have your product. But on the point that you can't grow in Florida, I mean, that they're not very familiar with cultivation in Florida. There's been quality cannabis grown here. You could come to our Ruskin facility, which is the Gen 1 greenhouse that we ventilated. You could go try our flower. If you got people that, I'd love for that person to try Sourdove that we dropped yesterday, which came out of Ruskin, and tell me that good cannabis can't be grown in Florida. They're dreaming. So from my perspective, people make a lot of comments on social media. We see a ton of Monday morning quarterbacks. I trust our grow team, and I'd love to see this person come sit down in the grow house and have a chat with Chris Keller about that. That would probably be a podcast in and of itself to watch that conversation.
That would be absolutely incredible, and I almost plan on talking shit to you just so I can get that invite again and just keep
You
coming
could,
back.
you guys, you and Robert have an open invite, man. Come on up.
Don't say it. Robert's single, man. He might set up a cot in the grow and never leave. So I wouldn't say that. At least I have a family keeping me here. Oh man, dude, I will go back to it. I'm a Florida fan, right? We get a lot of slack because of the Florida man and all that stuff, but this state's incredible, especially where we live. You know, it's such a diverse state from the top of it, where your dad used to operate up in Pensacola, all the way down here. You and I both went to Florida State. Tallahassee is a different animal. Orlando is a different animal. You know, it's Florida is a very diverse state, which is why we have all these crazy stories. But and I'm not going anywhere with this more than like my favorite T-shirt that I have from OnePlant is the one that I got the day the Boynton dispensary opened, where it has the OnePlant logo on the back of it with the state of Florida flag behind it. It's so cool. Like I literally rep. I have a Hurley hat with the state of Florida flag on it. I
Yep.
know that you have a Florida hat that you wear too. I'm waiting for this hat to have the Florida flag behind it. You know, if you just want a merch idea, we'll throw that out there. But the
We
Made in
got some cool
Florida,
stuff
man,
coming.
I hope you continue on that Made in Florida thing because I'm very proud of that. It makes me a proud Floridian. And I love seeing the companies that started here, and there's only a few of them that just claim that, hey, we are a Florida cannabis company. We're Florida first. We're proud to be from here, and we're proud to put quality cannabis out there. So thank you for that. Um, Transitioning, one thing that we'll probably never stop talking to you about because I'm still enamored. My favorite line ever spoken on this podcast, and people bring this one up to me, is right into one of the biggest ones. We were talking about your dad, and you wrote, or you go, 13 shrimp boats, never caught a shrimp. Like when I finally cut together the trailer for this podcast, that will be one of the first lines that are going to be in it. Listen, we've got Cody in the documentary. There's a lot of stuff more in cannabis. We've got Narcos. They just had a new organized crime documentary on Netflix, The Mafia versus New York City. I think we are ready for a dollar bill Cobb movie or documentary. You talked about it. How far are we away from this, man? I need to see it. I think the time is now. I'm pushing you. I know that you don't have anything better to do with your life than work on this film, but come on, man. How long till we see this movie come out?
We're my marketing director here at OnePlant, Chris Rice. Before in his past life was a screenwriter, filmmaker in LA. Before I dragged him over here to jump into this crazy world, and he's well down the road. So I think you'll see something here in the next year or so. We're going through. There's a full script done. It's you're also going to start to see as we start to have more product. You'll start to see some cool stuff that's got some of my dad's fingerprints on it hitting the markets. Whether it's apparel or whether it's some specific things. You're going to start to see some cool stuff because there's no better way to pay homage to who we are as Floridians and who actually has been cultivating in Florida and doing things in Florida than to pay homage to the guys that were in the black market well before this medical market existed. So yeah, you're going to see it. And one of the areas I always pop by as I'm driving over to Ruskin and driving home, I recently did an interview with Forbes and they asked what was my favorite
Yeah.
restaurant. It was instantaneous. It was Triad Seafood in Everglades City.
I had
And
to look that place up.
you got to go, man. I'm telling you, I'll introduce you to the owner over there, Orlo. He's the man. But the cool thing about Everglades City is there's no town has more of the smuggling industry kind of woven into its fabric than Everglades City. At one point in time, the FBI and the DEA parked cars. If you've seen the movie Square Grouper, you can learn about it. The documentary from Billy Corbin. Cars that there's one road in and one road out. They blocked the roads and basically arrested every man over the age of 18 because that's all they were doing was smuggling at one point cannabis and then they were smuggling cocaine because of the 10,000 islands and they knew the islands. So it's you know, that place to me reminds me of my father. That's why I always stop there to kind of have a beer on the dock and pay homage. And, every time I'm in our garden, I say a few words for him just because I wish he could see it.
Yeah.
There's certain things that God knows what there's so many other guys in South Florida that God knows what they would think at looking around at dispensaries open on corners and, cultivation facilities growing flower in Florida. It's wild. And it's not lost on me how lucky we are and how many people unnecessarily have a scarlet letter on them for a cannabis conviction for the rest of their life. or how many people have had their lives altered because of law enforcement and cannabis, it's not lost on me. It's not lost on our grow team. It's not lost on anybody on our team how incredibly lucky we are to be able to be doing this legally. And there was a comment that a guy who I've become friends with on Instagram, he left a comment. He's a black market grower, and he left a comment that it's pretty. It hit me hard. It's pretty cool that my wife gets to be proud of me publicly. My kids get to be proud of me publicly. My friends and family get to be proud of me, and my growers' friends and family get to go to their office, the cultivation facility, and see what they're doing, and it's legal. And one day maybe that will happen for him too. That comment hit me because you think about all these guys that have been, crafting and caring for this plant and growing this plant to help people in the shadows. They don't ever get to get any recognition. They don't ever get to have that moment where they get to show, hey, son, hey, daughter, this is what I do. And they're growing a plant. That's one of the reasons I took my kids to the grow is destigmatize it. This is what dad does. Learn about these plants. And now they, we call it CBD for them for right now because they're 8 and 10. As they get a little older, we'll explain the difference. But, for them to be able to see that and be in the garden and have that experience, that's something that thousands of other people with a love for this plant haven't been able to do. And we take that responsibility very seriously. And that's why, again, we pay homage to the growers.
That's awesome. And for the guy who left the comment for you, uh, listen, folks, the easiest way to fix the war on drugs, to fix some of this stuff, a lot of these people, they just want a job. They want a job doing something that they love. Yes, there are cartels and other things involved, and we'll make sure that those people get prosecuted. But there are a lot of people that just want to have a job, that want to do something they love. They're passionate about this plant. I give credit to Carson Humiston from Banks for saying this on the show, but she's like, these people are not bankers. They're in this industry because they're passionate about it, right?
Yep.
They're not here chasing. Nobody's in cannabis chasing. Well, there are some owners that are chasing a paycheck, but there's no employees in this industry that are just chasing a paycheck. They're here because they want to be, right? And that's very unique to this industry. And I would love to see a lot of the people that are amazing at what they do. I have friends or people that I know that are cultivators on the black market, and all they want to do is become legit. They just want to have a legitimate business, but they can't get licensed. And I think if we make that easier for people, it's just gonna, I really think it's gonna change the world for the better. And then it's on the responsibility of parents like you and me. You had just mentioned, and I love that you actually said this, we call it CBD for the kids right now because they're 8 and 10. Some of us, we don't know how to handle it with our kids yet. We're all going to have that conversation. But I think that responsibility is on us as parents to educate them the right way and educate the generation after them on what this is and how you use it. I had Eben Britton on the show. I don't know if you know who he is, but I'm a big fan of his. And I actually asked him, I said, Eben, you're a father, you're about my age. How do you handle it with your daughter? And it's daddy's medicine. It's what I need because of the life that I lived in order to be myself. And I make the argument all the time, and it's not exclusive to me. I've stolen it from other people. If it was Zoloft or Prozac or something that had been approved in pharmaceuticals, then no one would question it.
There'd be a commercial during prime time. There'd be a commercial during prime time. And we have the conversation with our children. I had the conversation when I was a teenager with my parents about alcohol. It's the same, and alcohol ads are everywhere for children to see.
Everywhere.
And if you were to ask me, being an almost 40-year-old parent of 2, having gone to Florida State and had plenty of fun, having had plenty of fun before I had 2 kids to deal with, and still having a lot of fun because my wife and I love to have a good time and travel. If you were to ask me whether I'd rather use cannabis for relaxation purposes or I'd rather drink alcohol, it's not even close. And what do I feel better on the next day? It's not even close. There's a reason. My wife was not a huge fan of cannabis for a long time. I've been, ever since I first tried it, when I was a kid, when I was, I think I was 14 or 15. I've been a massive fan, and that it used to sometimes be a source of friction for us. But she used to ask me recently, like, how come you're not as hungover as me if we go out and have a good time? I go, because I'm puffing. I'm smoking a little bit before we go out, so I don't drink as much. Instead of having 3 or 4 or 5 beers, I'll have 1 or 2 because I've got some people call it California sober. So, for me, it's like that. To me, and once she kind of saw that, and that it was, instead of having to have that glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine to unwind after homeschooling the kids during COVID, it's like, grab her pen and take a puff, and all of a sudden feels a heck of a lot better and sleeps through the night. So
Yeah.
you couldn't be more right. It's all about, getting rid of the stigma, and the only way that's going to happen is by people living it in their everyday lives. And look, let's not kid ourselves. Florida's patient aggregation right now is 2 times what it was before COVID. I mean, we used to add around 2,000 patients a week, and last week I think they added 5,700 patients. So as more people are kind of becoming aware of what this is and what it can do to change their lives, I mean, from an anxiety standpoint, from a pain standpoint, from just a general relaxation standpoint, these are very crazy times, and this is stuff that I don't think the world has ever seen, and we're all getting it kind of crammed on us in one year. It's opening people's eyes day by day to what this plant can do, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Yeah, and I could probably continue another hour or so on this topic and talk about all the benefits that it'll have for our country. But we kind of just spoke about it because you brought up your family. The last thing I just want to touch on with you, because I love it, and I follow you on social media as well. There's a guy who's been in the news for what exactly everyone thought was going to happen. Dan Bilzerian had the party lifestyle and everything else. Girls everywhere, and obviously he's using Ignite to fund that lifestyle. I look at you as the anti-Bilzerian, right? I follow you on social media and you're there, you're working hard and everything else. But then all of a sudden I watch you and, you're on a boat with your son crossing over the Bahamas. Like, that's still fun as shit. And you get to experience that with your family. And everything that I see, you're always with your family hanging out. I've rarely seen a picture or a snap or anything of you just with your buds. And I'm sure that happens, but you're always with your family. You're always having fun with your family. I'm jealous of the hashtag that you created, the Cobb Squad. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a catchy last name where that would work, but man, talk to me about the last thing I want to talk to you about, because I know you work hard, extremely hard, but I also see you spending a ton of time with your family. How do you find that work-life balance where you get to do that, and how important has that been to you?
It's everything. I mean, for me, my family was divorced, obviously, when my father got, arrested and indicted. I had a wonderful stepfather, but I was an only child. Um, so for me to be able to have this family with Lauren and with Carter and Campbell, it's everything to me. So whether when I was a lawyer at Tripp Scott, or I was a small practitioner with my own firm, or now in this position, families first. The business never stops. So that involves it. I'm in the Bahamas. When I got to run over there, I was on our daily operations call at 9:15 every morning. I was on probably 5 or 6 conference calls every day. I mean, my son was giving me heck because we're out walking a bonefish flat. I got my earbuds in, whispering on a phone call as we're trying to catch bonefish on fly. So it's all about that. It's all about just, it's priorities. That's the simplest way I could say it. So you can make the work-life balance work, but you got to set your priorities. Is it work or is it family? And then you just work you have to have the conversation, and have the conversation with your spouse and your kids that sometimes dad's going to have to take a phone call. Doesn't matter if we're at home. It doesn't matter if we're at the beach. It doesn't matter if we're in the Bahamas. Dad's going to have to take a phone call. Or dad has to travel every now and then to get around the state to see the stores. But if you commit to it, for me, it's such a small snippet, and I'm sure you're experiencing it with your daughter. It happens so fast. And the hardest thing to do is to say, I got to leave the office today because I got to leave at 4 o'clock because I'm going to go coach a baseball game, or I'm going to go coach. So I coached all my kids, soccer teams, baseball teams. And it wasn't easy to go peeling out of the office sometimes. And I'd be stressed out and I'd be angry. But as soon as I got there, it's okay. I'm here now. I get to do this, and I get this time with my kids, and you're not going to be able to replace that. So does that mean I sleep a lot less? Yeah. Because time that I have out of the office, or time I have when I'm on a trip with the kids, I get them, they go to bed 7:30, 8:30 during the summer. And that means it's time for me to fire up the laptop and catch up. So my team has to get accustomed to the fact that they're going to get a lot of emails from me at 11 o'clock at night. They're going to get emails from me at 6 a.m. when I'm up after I've had coffee, kind of getting ready for the day, because my kids wake up at 7:30. I hang with them, we cook breakfast. go for a walk, go for a bike ride, and then I go into the office. So one thing I will say from COVID-19, I don't know if you experience this too, but as hard as it's been, as many people that have been impacted by it, as many people that have lost their lives, the one positive I will take out of it is we got family time together that we'll never get back.
Yeah.
If it hadn't have happened the way that it happened, we'd still be on the you take one child here and I'll take one child to this practice. And we were in that run where it was just, there wasn't a lot of family time. And during COVID, to be able to come home in the afternoon and be able to spend some time together, it really kind of refocused me that, yeah, the business is hard. I mean, Mike and I work 18-hour days, pretty much 6 days a week. The whole team here is pretty much on that same schedule because we're in our hyper growth mode. We've been preparing for the next 90 days for the last 2 years. So it's a grind, to steal your show's name. It's a fucking grind, man. But if you prioritize and say that when I'm home, I'm going to be present. I'm going to do my best to not be on my phone. I'm not going to be on my computer. And then when the kids go to bed, barring an emergency, you grind out your work. Or when you're in the office, no lollygagging. When I'm here, I'm here. I'm here to work. And when I'm not here, I go home and I see the family. So it's an ever changing pull, push and pull. But if you prioritize that, for me, family is everything. Being Lauren's husband and being my kid's father is everything. And everything else I get to do, I'm very blessed to be able to do.
That's awesome, man. And it's something that I truly look up to, and 100%. I mean, the silver lining in this pandemic is, it happened right around my daughter was about 4 or 5 months old, and I've got to spend so much time with her, at this age where I probably would be neglecting it because I'd be on the road. My job was being in Fort Lauderdale, Miami every day, and I'd be out of the house from 7 till 7, 8, 9. If there's a C Lab thing, if there's a podcast, even now, doing the podcast at home, there are certain nights I don't get to eat dinner with them because I'm doing this show. But I think people discount the value of the 10 to 1 o'clock in the morning time. That's honestly one of my favorite times to work. My wife's sleeping, my kid's sleeping, and it's just peaceful in the house. And I
Yeah,
can just
I
focus on it
love
and
it.
not feel bad.
I love it.
So,
You can get a lot of work done in a quiet house, and COVID's going to reshape, I think, the office environment and how people utilize offices. And I think what it's also done is it's kind of thrown the traditional 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 workday where you have to be chained to your desk, sitting here. It's completely. I already didn't live that way, but for most industries, it's taken that and thrown it out the window. People have realized, yeah, you can work from home and still be very successful. You can work
yeah.
remotely and be very successful. And it's just about time management and prioritization. My only advice to you, man, is I can barely remember those 4 to 5 month old days. It happens so fast. I've
Yeah.
now got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old that, are off to the races. So enjoy every second, man. You're doing it right. Enjoy every second.
Thank you very much. And I have been, and she's been amazing. She was born right around the time I met you guys, and you guys have been so incredibly supportive for this show and the things that I've done and everything else that I do. You and Rhonda and Mike and everybody there at OnePlant has been extremely supportive, and I thank you for that. And before I let you go, let's tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find the website, anything else you want to promote. Let's get that out there.
Sure, yeah. OnePlant.us is the webpage. That's you can order. 4 stores open: Boynton Beach, Port St. Lucie, St. Petersburg, and Jack's Beach. And all I will say is, if you've checked us out or heard about us, but we're worried about whether we're going to have things in stock or limited drops, starting next week, there's nothing limited about our drops. You're going to see consistent, sustained, very high quality flower and amazing genetics coming down every 7 days. So we really look forward to that moment, being able to really scale up, ramp up, and serve more patients.
Well, I originally, I'm going to take your word for it because I originally was going to cut the show short when I got the text message about Palm Dog. But, if you tell me it's going to be there, then I guess we could have went the full length of the interview. So
It'll be there.
I'm going to go check that out now. Really excited to try the new strains. Really excited for everything that you guys have going on. I'm a fan. I rock the stuff. You've always been super supportive of me, so thank you so much. Thank you, everybody at home. This has been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. Before we go, the show is brought to you by Mr. Cannabis Law. Mr. Cannabis Law was founded and operated by my good friend Dustin Robinson, who does the lab report with me. That will be on later today at 12:30. He's a full-service law firm that focuses exclusively on the hemp and marijuana space. If you need help navigating the difficult regulatory environment in the cannabis industry, please check out his website at mrcannabislaw.com. This has been Elevate Your Grind, and we're out.